The booking has been successfully canceled.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So today we're going to explore how we can build our own custom GPT that will take actions on our behalf. What action, you may wonder? Well, we will plug our GPT into my car sharing provider and book cars on my behalf. Why would we do that? Well, first of all, it's very convenient. I can use voice chat on my phone. I can open the app and just say, let's book a car for tonight between 7 and 8 p.m. And the GPT will actually read out all the cars available, and I can just confirm the final booking. So basically, I can do the whole booking process with my eyes closed. I think that's very convenient. So here you can briefly see my car sharing provider. It's called Grüne Flotte. It's a German provider. I have an account here. This is what the actual booking website looks like. So I'm logged into my account here, and you can see the map is centered into my hometown. You can enter an address here. Let's enter my address here, and it will zoom into the location. You can see it here. And on the left, you can see all the available cars. In the date picker, I entered 6 to 7 p.m. And now I can, filter, like, show me only the available cars. And here on the left, you can see this car sharing spot here has 8 available cars. It's very close. And now the usual process is I go through the list, and you can see the XS. This is the cheapest car. Then the S is the second cheapest car. Then there's like an L and like an M. So these are more expensive. So usually I go for the cheapest car because why wouldn't I? Unless I need like a big car for, I don't know, some transportation stuff. So I click on the car and I simply click on book, and now I could actually confirm the booking. So we actually want to automate this whole process and access the third-party API that you can see here. So you can see that this app is actually making a lot of requests to the API, and we will decipher this API so we can actually use it in our GPT. So in order to create our own GPT, you need to have a Plus subscription. I think it's $20 per month. So in my opinion, it's well spent money because you get the ChatGPT version 4 and probably version 5 very soon. And here you can see the official marketplace for all the custom GPTs that companies build or other individual users build. And you can click on create here. And now we have like an interface to build our own GPT. We will click on configure. And here you can enter all the details and the instructions, a conversation starter. You could upload files if you want to, but we don't really need this feature right now. But this is very important. Here on the bottom, you can find the actions label, and the tooltip says APIs this GPT can use. So we will take advantage and actually create a small node wrapper. So the GPT will connect to our wrapper, and I will do all the magic behind the scenes and access the car sharing API with our own small node script. You can find the script here. I will show it in detail a little bit later. And if you want, you can check out my blog article on this video. There's some more details in here, some background and stuff. So the link for it is in the video description. So in this video, you will learn how to use the actions in GPT, and you will learn how to set up the OpenAPI schema for the action. So the GPT knows exactly what action it can perform and which parameters it should use. So let's take a look at what is an action in GPT. So on the official documentation, it says, in addition to using our built-in capabilities like browsing, DALL-E, code interpreter, you can also define custom actions by making one or more APIs available to the GPT. Actions allow GPTs to integrate external data or interact with real world, such as connecting GPT to databases, plugging them into your emails, or making them your shopping assistant, all through APIs. So pretty much we're using it as like a shopping or booking agent. So here it says we can use the OpenAPI specification. So here in the official documentation, you can actually see how the GPT action flow is working, and it's very, very simple. And we will actually take a look at that step by step. So this is my custom GPT, and we will go into this a little bit later, but we will also go through our custom instructions so that the GPT really knows what it's supposed to be doing. So we will also take a look at the OpenAPI specification. And this is very important because with this specification, the GPT really knows how to connect to your API, which query parameters to use, which response to expect, like error handling and all these kind of things. All right, let's look at the website in the browser so we can really inspect and see what's going on here. So we're gonna enter the booking URL, and you can see it's a pretty nice map in the background, and on the left you can see all the available cars. Actually, the map is zoomed into the center of Freiburg, which is the place where I live in. It's a city in South Germany. And on the left you can see all the available cars, and in fact they are all available right now because we're not logged in yet, and that means we can just see everything. Once we're logged in, this is going to be filtered, and the cars that are not available are not going to be on the list. You can actually zoom out of the map a little bit, which we can see here. Yeah, and you can see that once you're zoomed out, actually the list is updating automatically. And we will see later in the network panel that the cars are updated, once you zoom in and out, or once you move the map. And you can see the search input here on the top, and you can see the date filter, which is very important, of course, because you want to know at which times a car is available or not. Okay, so this is the login screen, and basically we want to inspect the request and see what the actual payload looks like. So we just use a random username and password just to see what this looks like. So let's see what this looks like. Let's clear out the request and submit the form, and you can see it fails. There's a 401 status code, which means unauthorized. So yeah, let's see the payload. Here's the payload. So we have the login obviously is the email address. The credential is the password. The prof ID, that's the unique provider ID for the specific car sharing company. In my case, it's the Grüne Flotte. And we will remember this payload so we can actually duplicate this request in Bruno. Okay, so when we authenticate with our credentials correctly, the response returns an ID, which is sort of like a token. Actually, it's like an access token. And we also have the customer ID. This is our personal customer ID, of course. And these two properties are required to authenticate all further requests. Okay, now we're going to look at the request here. And let's check out how we can import this request into Bruno. Bruno is a tool that we can use for that. And if we go to the website here, usebruno.com, and it describes itself as like an open source Postman alternative API client. Let's ask ChatGPT how to describe Postman. Postman is a tool used for testing APIs by sending and receiving requests. It helps developers create, test, and manage APIs efficiently. Well, I couldn't have said it in a better way. So if we go to the manifesto, well, you can see that it's an open source project with almost 20,000 stars on GitHub, which is quite a lot. If you're curious about the details of Bruno and their goals, you can check the manifesto here. Now let's open the software. This is what it looks like. It's quite a simple UI. And on the left, you can see that I created the Grüne Flotte requests here already. And I'm going to show you how you can actually create a new request. We will call it test, and we click from curl, and we'll paste the clipboard here, and you can see all the query parameters are appended here and some headers. Let's click create, and voila, so we've got the URL here, all the query parameters, we've got the headers here, and we can actually remove them. We don't really need them. Remove. We'll remove the XAPI key because it's actually appended to every request from the collection settings. I will show you in a minute. Let's save the request here, and we'll go to authentication and click inherit. And inherit means basically that the collection settings has got this tab here, authentication tab, and we'll choose basic authentication. And you can see I already filled in the token and the customer ID. And this is going to be used for every request within the collection. So let's go here. Let's try it out. And okay, it fails. It says authentication error. So we will get a new token from here, from the tokens endpoint. Let's send the request, grab the token, And let's check the environment here. Remove the token, and let's create the token here. Token, and paste it in there and make it secret. Save. I'm gonna close it. We'll go back to our request here, and now it should work. Yeah, voila. We're getting a response here with all the different places and all the different, points of interest. All right, so on the left, you can see all the, let's delete this request here because I already created it here on the left. So we've got the tokens request. That's going to get a new token for us. And then we have points of interest. This is all the locations for the different cars. We have booking proposals. That's pretty much a query for a start and end time with the result of all the cars. And they are referred to as the bookie ID. And you can see here, the bookie ID can be found here. And this refers to a specific car. Then we've got the prelim bookings post request here. So basically we have to ask it for a time range, a start and end date with a certain bookie ID, which is the car. Then we're going to send the request here. And actually booking not available because as you can see here, this car is not available anymore. So let's check a new one. Let's go for 18 to 19 p.m. Let's copy this bookie ID. Seems to be available. So we will just paste it in here and let's see. Voila. And we're going to get back an object, and this has like a confirmation ID. And in the next endpoint, we can use this ID. This is the reservation ID here. And we will just sort of put it in here like that. And this should actually finalize the booking. And I have done it previously, and this is the booking object that you get back when it's successful. And on the left, we've got the bookings request, and that's just a basic list of all my bookings that are currently ongoing. And let's see, there are no bookings ongoing right now. Okay, so you may have noticed this X API key that I previously set in Bruno, and I set it here in my local environment. I just go to local configure, and you notice this X API key. And I actually checked the front end, and I noticed that every request really appended the key. You can see it here. And I figured, okay, maybe this key changes every day. Maybe there must be some way in the payload where this key is actually extracted from. So I did a search in the sources here, and I searched for the X-API-key, and I found it here in some JavaScript configuration object. And actually this was a bit weird because the value that I found here is quite different from the value actually used in the request. So I was a little bit confused by that, and this value wouldn't work. So I just figured there must be like a window object, and I just typed in the window dot whatever configuration, and there you have it. There is the actual key being used here. Yeah, and so I just copied this over to Bruno, and then it would work. So this key might be subject to change, so you may have to automate this extraction, and this would certainly be possible, but that's not subject for this video. All right, it's time to actually build the GPT, and I'm logged into my OpenAI account here, and you can see on this URL, you can see the GPTs I created. It's just one for now. And the visibility is only me, because of course I'm using my own credentials and we do not support like an open authentication yet. So let's just edit this GPT and show you what this actually looks like. All right, let's go to configure. And of course I just put like a random icon. I put the GPT car sharing booking agent as a name, some simple description. And I will show you the instructions in a minute. And I just enabled web browsing, so the GPT can actually look up the current date, because sometimes if a user, or if I refer to today, for example, I'm telling the GPT, find me a car for today between 7 and 10 p.m. It actually confused today with like different dates, like 4 days ago or 2023 or something like that. So you will see in the instructions that we actually need to look up the current day. to rely on that. And also I enabled this plugin here. I'm not sure if I need it. I think I don't need it, but I just left it in there. All right, let's look at the instructions, because this is really the heart and meat of this whole GPT. So let's take a look. You are a GPT that enables a user to easily find nearby rides from a car-sharing provider in a certain area of Germany. Your only job is to look up available rides, reserve them, and finally book a specific ride. A user can also list currently booked rides. If a user asks a question that has nothing to do with booking or canceling a ride, don't even try to come up with an answer. Just politely ask the user whether he wants to look up a ride for a certain time. You will follow these steps in order. And I think it's very, very important to have these steps so the GPT really knows what it's supposed to be doing. So it doesn't do something completely different. So the first step is ask the user to state a base address, which is used as a lookup for available nearby rides. This can be either a physical address or lat-long coordinates. Remember this address once given by the user. It serves as his base address from which he's looking for cars that are close to him. Only ever change this address if the user asks to change it. And you can see that in the conversation starters, I entered my home address just for convenience, because I don't want to repeat it over and over. And you may even enter different addresses here, depending on your use case. So step number 2, if not already specified, always ask for the date and time for which the user wants to book a ride. A typical user input will be today between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. or tomorrow between 8 and 6 p.m. Do not continue to step 3 unless you have this required information, address and date time. Always assume the actual current day if the user refers to today. Look it up if necessary. If a user states only the day and month and no year, always assume the current year, 2024. Step number 3, call cars to get a list of available cars for the given time frame. Use the required lat-long start and end parameters for this request. Yes, so you can really tell the GPT which parameters to use, and this is important because otherwise the GPT may omit or forget a parameter, and of course the request is gonna fail. Okay, step number 4. If the user wants to make a reservation, call the reservation endpoint to create a reservation. Use the required start, end, and bookie ID parameters for this request. I will show you the OpenAPI specification in a minute, and you can really specify each of these parameters in detail. Step number 5, if user confirms, call book to finalize the booking. So when passing start and end parameters to actions, make sure the format is UTC. However, the time range the user gives is always the time zone Europe Berlin. This is important because the actual request is not GMT +2. This is the time zone I'm living in. So I really need to make sure that the GPT doesn't mess this up. When a user cancels a booking, first get cancellation ID via the cancel action. With this, return cancellation ID, ask the user for confirmation of the cancellation. Upon confirmation of the user, call cancel confirm. This will completely cancel the booking. If you ask a question of the user, never answer it yourself. You may suggest answers, but you must have the user confirm. Okay, so I always like to add examples so the GPT really knows what a typical conversation looks like. Example conversation, ChatGPT, which address should I use as a base? User, my address, ChatGPT, for which time do you want me to find nearby cars? User, today between 7 and 9 p.m. ChatGPT, here are the closest cars I found. And then there's just a list of the different cars, you know, the location, the type of car, the license number, and then the bookie type, which is basically the size of the car. And finally, the distance from my home address. User, make a reservation for option 1. ChatGPT, I made a reservation for the address, and yeah, it's gonna repeat the whole car, license number, bookie type, and so on. Do you want me to proceed with the booking? User, yes. ChatGPT, okay, the booking is complete for, and then it's gonna repeat all the details. All right, so that's the basic instructions. Okay, so the most important part here is the action. Let's check it out. Okay, so this action is really the most important part of the whole GPT, because you can define several endpoints here, defined under path. This is like an OpenAPI specification, and you can see here this is one of the endpoints we use, and let's see, this is another one here, and then we have the booking endpoint. Basically, this is calling my node wrapper, so I'm running a small Express server on my server, and this pretty much forwards these requests to the actual API of the car sharing API. This way I have much more control over the incoming request and the outgoing request, because the GPT can mess up much less and it doesn't need as many parameters as, maybe I actually do need. Also, I can handle authentication myself, because as we know, the API was not an official, it doesn't have an official open authentication. So I'm going to handle all that on my Express server. I will show you in a minute. And this way the GPT has much less knowledge of the whole, third-party API. So these are the available endpoints that we have here. We have cars, reservation, booking, list bookings, cancel, confirm, and you can name them with the operation ID here. So when I recorded the video, actually I noticed that when I read the documentation, and that's something I would encourage you to do, they've got a great documentation here over at platformopenai.com, and you can see here that's the getting started guide for GPTs, and basically they have this consequential flag, and I didn't know it existed before recording the video. And basically what this does is, if you have a very important action like booking something, and this is the use case I'm actually using, you could prompt the user to really confirm the action. So that's something you may consider adding to the specification. All right, let's look at the node.js API wrapper, and you can follow along on my blog post of this whole video. And there's a step 2, create the node.js API wrapper. And there's also a repository where you can just download the code here, and you can find it in the video description. So let's look at the GPT-serve file, and let's go to my Sublime. It's a bit easier to read. All right, it's very, very simple. It's just one JavaScript file, and I'm loading up, a few packages like Express, for example, and I'm using the JSON middleware to pass JSON request bodies, and you can see that it's very, very basic, and we've got a few. Let's just collapse this function here. And these are all the routes of my API wrapper. And basically the GPT calls these routes, and I'm just forwarding the request to the third-party APIs. So you can see the authentication, for example. That's one of the routes, and let's look at the function here. And basically I'm just calling the tokens endpoint that we saw earlier in Bruno. And really the important bit is this one here. I'm pretty much using a .env for my username and password, and it's posting to the endpoint, and I retrieve the token, and I'm just caching it until it expires. So let's look at the .env example. You can just rename it to .env, and you can specify the port that the Express server is running on. And you can put the API key in here, username and password, of course. And yeah, so basically, let's look at the cars route, for example. This retrieves the list from the points of interest we saw earlier. And the most important part is the Axios request here. It's the get request to the points of interest endpoint. These are the query parameters that we saw earlier in Bruno. And I'm just appending my authorization header, so that I'm actually authorized to make the request. There's a few more endpoints here, the reservation, booking, cancel, and the bookings endpoints. So basically you can use this script as a basic wrapper for any custom GPT. So you may wonder, what's the whole point of using the API wrapper? And in my opinion, the most important advantage is that you can debug the incoming request from the GPT. You can exactly see what's going on. You can see all the parameters, request bodies, and so on. And then you can really do whatever you want behind the scenes. So you have much more control over the outgoing request and the incoming request. So I highly encourage you to use these sort of API wrappers. And you might use a tool like request bin. So this is request bin. I think it used to be called that, but now it's called Pipedream. And basically it's an online service where you can do exactly what I'm doing here with my script. You can intercept an incoming request, you can execute custom code, and you can basically forward the request from it. And you can, of course, debug the incoming request as well. So that's something you may consider using. Let's look at the pricing. I think the basic package is $29 per month. So that may be something you're interested in. Let's look at the OpenAPI schema. It's part of the repository. So yeah, you can have a look at that over there. All right, time for a demo. So I've just logged into my server here and I'm gonna run the GPT Surf Express server. All right, it's running. So I've just opened my GPT on my phone and I'm just gonna use the conversation starter for convenience. So let's see. Okay, so it's asking, which time and date should I use? Okay, so we'll try to use the voice chat. Okay, find me cars between 8 and 9 a.m. tomorrow.
Here are the closest cars I found for tomorrow between 8 and 9 a.m. 1. Hauptbahnhof Wenzingerstraße. 14. Toyota Aygo X, EMSW 1710, XS approximately 350 meters away. 2. Hauptbahnhof Wenzingerstraße, U6, Ford Fiesta, EMSW 2588S approximately 50 meters away. 3. Hauptbahnhof Wenzingerstraße, No 4, Ford Fiesta, EM420S approximately 350 meters away. 4.
Okay, I'm just gonna abort the voice chat because, that's a little bit boring now to see all the details. But you can see here, all the cars are listed here. The 5, closest cars from my place. And it found in total 32 cars, available cars, booking duration 1 hour. And you can see the incoming request from the GPT. And you can see like some specific headers that are being sent and a specific user agent. It says openai.com/bot. And this is quite useful if you want to protect your server from, any unwanted, intruders. So it's using these parameters, looks pretty good to me. Let long, that's my coordinates from the home address. And the date is, May 1st. This is correct. It's using the correct time zone as well, 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. So that's a difference of 2 hours here. That seems to be correct. Let's see if we can book option number 1. Let's book option number 1.
I made a reservation for the Toyota Aygo X at Hauptbahnhof Wenzingerstraße, 14, with the license number EMSW 710 for tomorrow between 8 and 9 a.m. Do you want me to proceed with the booking?
Yes, please.
Okay, the booking is complete for tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. The car is a Toyota Aygo X at Hauptbahnhof Wenzingerstraße.
Great. Can you cancel my booking?
I have initiated the cancellation for your booking tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Would you like to confirm this cancellation?
Yes, please.
The booking has been successfully canceled.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so that's pretty cool. And as you can see, all the requests were, well constructed and there were no errors or anything like that. So yeah, that's it. Actually, I can use the GPT to list all my current bookings. Should be none, but let's see. List all my current bookings, please.
You currently have no active bookings.
All right, so how can we take this further? So if you check my blog article, there's a paragraph taking it further and, pretty much the credentials are hard-coded now and the GPT is private. That means only I can use it. So if we wanted to make this public, we'd have to implement our own authentication wrapper because the car sharing provider doesn't really provide, an official authentication. So really it's undocumented and unofficial. So we'd have to present the user like a login screen. Then he enters the credentials, gets back a token, and we could use this token to, authenticate the individual user. Yeah, that's something we could do, something that's probably, doable. And if that's something you want to know or you want me to demo, just let me know. And another idea is to extend the current booking. So usually there's a scenario, I'm in the car, I'm rushing back. I just got a couple of minutes left and I'm like stressed, I need to return the car in time. Otherwise you pay like a fine, like, I don't know, 10 or 20 euros, depending on the time that you were late. And so it would be handy to just take the phone, hey, ChatGPT, extend the booking by 30 minutes. So that's another idea we could do. Also, I have multiple car sharing providers here in my city, and they use the same API. So that's quite easy to implement, to merge these providers into one basically lookup. So yeah, that's another idea I have. And if there's anything you'd like to know, or if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments, and yeah, I'm happy to reply. And you can expect more content like this from me. Yeah, and I'm all for like practical applications of AI. And if that's something you're interested in, yeah, feel free to subscribe to the channel. And see you next time with another video. Peace.